Hello. Okay, I will. And pardon me if I'm reading a little bit, but it's a lot to say. Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to our Behavior at Home webinar series presented by the Family Focus Resource Center and Advanced Behavioral Pathways. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good.
Yes.
So Family Focus Resource Center provides parent-to-parent support, information, and education for families that live in North LA County, and Advanced Behavioral Pathways is an agency that provides behavioral services to children and adults. We're collaborating on this 5-part series of webinars offered in both English and Spanish. So before we start, I want to provide some information about how this webinar will work. So all attendees are currently muted so that there's no background noise. You will be able to see the presentation on your screen. We will have some time for your questions and answers at the end. If you have a question, you can either type it in the chat box or raise your hand and we will unmute your audio. To raise your hand, click on the icon labeled Participants at the bottom center of your screen. To raise your hand, or at the bottom of the window on the right side of the screen, click the button labeled Raise Hand. Your digital hand is now raised. Don't worry about taking notes. We will provide a handout and some downloadable resources after the presentation on our website. The link is provided in the chat box, or it will be. We will get to as many questions as possible. If we don't answer your question, you can follow up with Michelle Heid, our presenter, at her email, which we will also provide. So this is the week 1 of our 5-week series, and we will be talking about activity schedules and visual supports today. So parents are having to be all things for their children, and this webinar will show parents how to create activity schedules and simple visual supports to help the whole family at home. Activity schedules and visual supports are simple tools that can make a big difference throughout the day. This webinar will review the benefits of activity schedules and visual supports and how to make them at home. So now we will get started. Take it away, Michelle.
Great, thanks, Kathleen. I'm really excited to present the information. Can you hand me the host duties so I can share my presentation?
Okie dokie. I think, Victoria, do you need to do that, or would that be me? Let's see. There you are.
I just did it.
Here we go. So like Kathleen said, my name is Michelle Heid, and I am a behavior analyst, a board certified behavior analyst, and I provide services across all 3 of the North LA County valleys, so San Fernando Valley, Santa Clarita, and Antelope Valley. However, we provide the bulk of our services here in Santa Clarita and also in Antelope Valley. And we work with children, a variety of ages, and we provide a lot of school-based services. So at this time, we know that it's really difficult. All parents are home, and you're having to be the teacher and the behavior analyst and the occupational therapist. So we're hoping today we can provide you with some tools and tips that you can really start using right away. Some people, this might be some of a review, but it also might be a good reminder of things that you were told before, and maybe in the chaotic time that we're all experiencing right now, you may have forgotten. I know when I was putting the webinar together and the information, I really thought, oh yeah, I can really, use some of those myself at home too. So like Kathleen said, these are simple tools that can really make a big difference and sometimes can really solve some big problems fairly easily and quickly. We'll have time for questions at the end, so I'm going to just get through the information fairly quickly to really allow for time at the end if people have questions about how they can apply the information that is presented. So we've all heard that schedules are really important. They're important for kids whether they're in school or at home. Those activities and having a schedule really keeps kids engaged and can prevent challenging behavior. When I'm out providing consultation services, if a classroom is not really actively keeping everyone engaged, you often will see higher rates of challenging behavior simply because you have kids who are bored. So it's really important now that they're at home to provide them some type of schedule and activities to do, just so they're not trying to fill their time on their own. And a lot of the kids that we support, they don't have a lot of those skills to engage in activities themselves. They don't have the ability to really fill their time on their own. And so it's really important for us to try to help them fill that schedule and fill that time with appropriate activities. Schedules also really help kids know what to expect, so they know, what's happening now and what's happening later and what's going to happen, later in the day. It can really help them to prepare for what's happening later and just have that information and know what to expect. You can imagine if you went through your workday and you didn't know, what time you were going to get there and what time lunch was and what time you were going to go home, you might feel a little bit of anxiety and you might have a more difficult time making it through your day. And for kids, it's really no exception that they really do better if they know what's happening and what's coming next. Schedules can also really help build that consistency between home and school. So kids at school, they're used to being on a schedule. Most classrooms run on a fairly consistent, tight schedule. They know they do their morning work, and then they have their language arts, and then they go to recess, and it's a set schedule that's really consistent every single day. So having a home routine or schedule that matches what they're doing at school might help just to kind of bring some of that familiarity back into the home. They're used to going to school and now they're home. And if we have, a schedule that somewhat matches the school schedule, it might help. It may not be all the same times, because I'm not a huge fan of ensuring that your kids are really getting up super early right now, but having a schedule that a little bit matches. Some of the things that you could do is just use some of the same wording. So, if they called it language arts in school, then call it that at home to provide them with some of that familiarity. So, at home you do outside playtime, and at school they have recess. At school they have PE. So can you use some of those same words just to kind of help them with that familiarity? It helps them if they really have things that they're just used to. And right now, with everything being so different, it would help to bring some of those same things home. You want to make sure you make changes that meet the needs of your family. So, this is difficult for me to make a schedule that would work for everyone, because everybody's family is different and all of our circumstances are different, especially right now. So here's some of the things you need to look at when you're making a schedule that's going to work for your family. Are you, as a parent, working from home while your kids are learning from home? If so, you need to make you need to take that into account when you're creating the schedule, as far as making sure that you're making time for you and for your kids' learning. And we're going to review some of those samples in a moment. Are you working outside the home while others are caring for your children? If so, do you need to make a schedule for when you're away and let them know when you're going to be gone and when you're coming back, just so they have, some of that information? And then some families prefer a weekly schedule, and that works, just to kind of have like some basic activities that are happening every day and just recreate that schedule every week. And some families work better on a daily schedule. So these are just some things that you need to think about when you're thinking about creating a schedule that works for your family. There's no right or wrong answer of what works for your family. It really just depends on all of the variables that are there in your home. Some families may need to do both a weekly and a daily schedule. So maybe you have some big events that are happening throughout the week, but then you have, your daily routine and your daily schedule that you need as well. So it's okay also to have both. Again, you just really want to figure out and find out what works for your family. Getting the family involved in creating the schedule is always a really great idea. You can sit down, have a family meeting, and get everyone together and talk about, what do they want to do, what's on their schedule, what activities do they want to spend their time doing to build that schedule. And you can make this a fun activity for them, where you're, writing down the schedule and making it with the whole family. You're asking everyone, what is something you want to do this week or today? What is something you want to do? And you're adding in those activities. If it's a schedule that's just presented by a parent, and they say, here's the schedule and this is what we're going to do, you're not getting that buy-in by really creating it together and asking them what kind of things they want to do. So as much as you can make it fun, if your kids like arts and crafts, you can make it an arts and craft experience where they're getting markers and coloring the schedule. If they're just, more kind of get the schedule and get it done, you can just do something more simple. But, again, whatever works for your family. Giving everyone the chance to give input can really help. So sometimes we see a lot of behavior problems when they don't have control over the situation. They're being told when they have to do everything. And sometimes just giving them a little bit of choice really can help. So, do you want to have lunch inside or outside? Do you want to take a bath tonight or tomorrow night? Little things like that may make a big difference in giving them some of the control and some of those choices and some input into your daily activities. And then you really have to be flexible. You don't want to create a schedule that's, so tight that you really can't stick to it. You have to be flexible to adapt to changes. If one activity is going really well and you need to extend it a little while, then just do that. Let them know and make that change, and then just, keep going through the day. If things change, just change them up and keep on going. So you don't want to, create something that is so rigid that you really can't abide by it or adhere to it throughout the day. So, again, do what works for you and your family. Really important part is to review the schedule. So if you've made a schedule that you're kind of going to use every day, you may make it the night before or the day before, and then review that schedule in the morning. That's something that's done in classrooms, all throughout the day. That in the morning they come in and, good morning, kids, welcome. And today is Monday, and today we're going to do this, this, and this. And then we're going to have recess, and then they'll review it again after recess. So it's a constant reviewing of the activities that are going on throughout the day. And again, that really just helps kids to know what's coming, they know what to expect, and can, kind of prepare for engaging in all of those activities instead of just transitioning very quickly from one to the other. That's not really helpful for kids. They can have a difficult time making quick transitions if we're not giving some type of warning. So reviewing the schedule also acts as a warning. It's like you're telling them kind of what's coming up. So how do we make a schedule? Well, you can do everything from, really complex to really simple. We're going to show some examples of really simple schedules, but it can be as simple as just writing it down on a piece of paper. You can draw pictures if you're great with that. If you're not, you can have your kids draw pictures of the different activities. And, it may not look anything like the activity, but it's a visual representation of that activity to them, and it might just help. Another thing you can do is you can just cut pictures out. So if you have magazines or you have, mailers that come in the mail, you can cut pictures out and glue those onto your schedule and use those. If you're really tech savvy, you can use the computer. We're going to show again some examples of computer-based schedules and token boards. And you can really do a lot with just simply PowerPoint and Google Images. So those two tools are free, they're easy to use, and you can create really anything, any type of schedule or visual support that you need using the computer and those tools. When making a schedule, adding times is really optional. You don't have to add times for every activity. You don't have to add times for any activity if that's what works for you. Or you can add times for some activities. So if some activities like lunch is always going to be at noon, then you may want to write that 12 o'clock is going to be lunchtime, but then you may have just a list of other activities that are going to happen after that. And it doesn't have to always have all the times. Some people feel like putting all the times is just too difficult. So then just don't do that. Just make a list as your schedule. When you're putting the schedule together, you really want to make sure that you're balancing all of the activities. You want to balance their school, their academic activities, their fun activities, which also may be academic, but maybe more preferred things for them. You want to make sure that you have some outside time and then some free time as well. So you really want to make sure that you're balancing all those activities that you're doing together. Maybe we should have put also, like, you want to put some family time on the schedule. If you're doing like a full day schedule, then you would want to add that in. But definitely balance is a key, because I think right now, especially if you're doing academics for too long of a period of time, you're really going to lose the kids and they're not going to be able to attend. So balancing out with that fun and outside is really helpful. And if we look at a school day, they go in the school classroom in the morning and they have a morning session where they're in the classroom. Then they have a short recess period. Then they have a short session where they're in the classroom, and then they're at lunch, and then a short period before they go home. And that schedule is really broken up like that. But even then within those classroom periods, they may be like getting up and doing brain breaks. They're going to, move about the classroom. They may even like go to the library or go to the computer lab and move about the campus like that. So it might be better while they're at home to ensure that we're putting some movement in the schedule, because if we're just asking them to sit for really long periods, it might be really difficult for them. So that short periods of schoolwork and breaks embedded is really great. And if you can figure out, or if you know what types of brain breaks and stuff the kids did at school, you can incorporate those right at home. I know a lot of schools right now are using a activity called Go Noodle. It's free for families. You can just get these great little videos online, and they have everywhere from, a 2 or 3 minute brain break type dancing activity to they have really long ones called like indoor recess, and that might be 20 minutes of activity that, what videos the teacher uses on Go Noodle, or they might even just know what videos to go to on YouTube. I can sing them all by this time because I've seen so many of them, and I even have my favorites. If I go into a classroom and they're, doing one of my favorite Go Noodles, I get kind of excited. Although I try to keep my professionalism right there, and I don't go singing and dancing, but it is pretty cute. So think of brain breaks, and then you may want to think of activities that your kids can do together. If you have multiple kids, it may be really difficult to manage them all separately, but can you have separate activities for them for part of the day, and then activities that they can do together for part of the day? Especially if you need to get your own work done, it might be good to kind of set them up with an activity together and be able to walk away and attend to your work or parenting tasks. So think about activities that they might be able to do together. So now the fun part, we're gonna see some samples. So these are, this is just a simple sample that we pulled off the internet. It's just, simple daily schedule where it just lists wake up, outdoor time, academic time, creative time. This one has times for every activity. You can see some of the academic times are about an hour or an hour and a half. So that might be for an older child. Bedtime's also 9 o'clock. So maybe that's a little bit older, but again, you want to adjust for what works for you. So this is something that you could write down on a piece of paper or just simply create on the computer. This is my favorite type of schedule. This is just super simple. It just lists the activities that you're going to be doing through the day. There's no times on here. So, breakfast one day might take a half hour and the next day it might take 5 minutes, just depending on what they're eating and how fast they're moving through the day. And so this doesn't necessarily have school time. Doesn't have times on it, but then in things like school time, you might outline, how many things they're going to do or what the activities are that they have to do, so that kind of puts a time on it as far as how long they're going to be doing that school time. But here's that same schedule with some times added. So these are just, arbitrary times that I've put together as a sample. And notice that last one, it says free time, pick an activity from the list. That means you as a parent with your children, you're going to come up with that list of free time activities. And I'm going to show you a sample of that as we keep going through. So, it doesn't have to be based on, you don't have to do this on the computer. You can simply get out a piece of paper and write it down with your kids. It can be something really easy. If they're not reading yet, don't worry. You can review it with them, and they may not be able to read it, but especially if you use different colors, they might be able to, eventually kind of get that. But I find that even if I'm working with people who aren't reading, just reviewing it with them and going through it, they kind of will pick it up and understand the routine of the day, either from you verbally explaining it to them or from seeing it in writing. So don't worry if they can't read yet. I would say try what you can come up with anyway. If you can add pictures, all the better. But if you can't add pictures, don't not try it because they're not reading. Try it anyway and see if it helps. Here's almost the same schedule, but you can see on this one we've listed kids' activities and we've listed mom's activities. So this is kind of an example of a mom who may be working from home while her kids are now home learning. And so you can see for the wake up for the kids, then mom is prepping breakfast. When the kids are eating breakfast, mom's having breakfast. When the kids are brushing their teeth and getting dressed, mom is cleaning up breakfast. Maybe you have the kids help with that too, because this is also a really, really great time to start learning independence skills and really work on those home daily life skills while you're also working on the academics. But because they're home, it's a good time to do some of that. But you can see how you can create a schedule with your kids and then with your activities, kind of right next to them, and they can kind of work together. Notice like outside playtime on this one, it also says work while the kids play. You're going to get some work calls done and you're going to prep the afternoon school work for them. So, you might have them play outside and just move your work outside. So you can provide that supervision, but you can also get some work done. When my son was young, I worked everywhere. And I know we can't go into the community right now, but I worked at McDonald's and I worked at Chuck E. Cheese, any place he could play that I could sit and get some work done. I wrote a lot of term papers from the McDonald's in Canyon Country because they have a great play. So, think of how you can really help them, but also get your work done too. Here are some pictures of schedules that they use in schools. So this is maybe what your child would see in their classroom. Most classrooms have some type of schedule. This one that has the morning routine and the language arts, they have this arrow that points to whatever activity they're doing right then, and they move that arrow through the day. So again, thinking of how you could incorporate that. On your written schedule, you might, draw an arrow to the current activity and then cross off the ones that you already did to kind of show them where you're at. Or you might let them cross them off, because we all know that it's really fun to cross things off the schedule when you've done them. So you might have them do some of those things. So again, review throughout the day. And this really has to work for your family. So if it's not working, then you need to make changes. So make the changes that are needed, explain the changes to everyone, and then just keep following that schedule. So it doesn't have to be, so stuck to it that it's not working and you're just trying to keep working through it. Just make the changes, explain the changes, and keep going. You can make a schedule for the whole day or just for part of the day. So some families might just do one for, the school portion of the day, and then the after school portion of the day is more just kind of your typical afternoon time. So again, do what works for you. And then we said add times for some or all of the activities, or none if you don't want to. So whatever works. Now we're going to talk a little bit about token systems. So these have been really popular now that school is out. We're even finding that students that were using them in school and then we had stopped using them in school because they were doing so well, we're now helping parents implement them at home because it's something, again, really simple parents can do. It's super effective and really easy to implement. So this would be an example of what a token board is. So it's just a simple board where a piece of paper really, where they earn tokens, and those the squares that you see are where the tokens go, and they earn those tokens over the course of an activity, over the course of a period of the day. So if you're doing a really difficult academic assignment, you might have them earn those 4 tokens during that one assignment, and then they get that reward activity. You might have them earn those 4 tokens over a course of 2 hours and then get that reward activity. And you really have to individualize this for what works for your child. And maybe they are, really young and can only earn 1 token and then they need a reward. And that's okay too. You can have a 1 token system, a 2 token system, or, we can have as many as like 16 tokens, maybe. I wouldn't do that many, but, maybe anywhere between 1 and 6 that they're earning before they get that reward activity. These really work because they're providing that reward throughout, because the tokens themselves are rewarding. And oftentimes the tokens can be really fun. So like in this example with the trolls, the tokens would be all the troll characters. And so when they're getting those tokens, the tokens are rewarding as well as that reward at the end. And sometimes they just enjoy kind of seeing like what token they're going to get next, and putting that on the board and earning that reward at the very end. So they work because they just help kids stay motivated throughout a task. So in the troll example that we just showed you, these would be the tokens. They would, you don't have to cut them out exactly like the picture is, but you just cut them out and then they get placed on those boxes once they're earned. Now in a super fancy example, this is going to be laminated with Velcro, and they're going to Velcro the tokens on, and then they're going to remove them. That's how we use them in school, so that we can keep using them over and over again. But at home, you may not have the ability to do that. And I know not everyone has a laminator at home. So if you don't, then you can simply cut them out and just use a piece of paper and not have the lamination or the Velcro, but have the same concept where the token board is near them when they're working. They earn those tokens and they can just be cut out pieces of paper that go on the squares. And then once they earn those 4, then you can give them the reward activity that they've chosen. So here's kind of an explanation. So the reward they're working for either gets put in the box as shown or written on the line on the token board. And then as they earn the tokens, they get placed on each of the squares. And once it's completed, then they earn the reward. And again, this can be where they're earning the reward after just one task or after a series of tasks, whatever works for your child. Here's another fancy example. I've created these on the computer using PowerPoint and again Google Images. This is where they would earn those Pokeball tokens one at a time until the board is full. And this one even kind of says how they earn them. They earn them when they're working hard or making good choices. Here's another example. So if you can't make one on the computer, you can, again, draw it on a piece of paper, cut out some pictures from magazine.
I'm sorry, I need to, can everyone please put themselves on mute? Or maybe our host, Michelle, can put some people on mute. Because we lost the ability to mute people, Michelle. Sorry.
Okay. I got it.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay, but I also fast forwarded my PowerPoint. So again, this is using the computer, but you can just cut out pictures and make one that your children like, or you can even get your kids involved and they can color one and help make one for themselves. So it's really important to get that buy-in and do one that they really like. So if they like Star Wars, do a Star Wars themed one. If they like This one is just simple transportation. If they're into that space, then make that one. So just find something that they like. And it, again, it can be kind of whatever you can come up with and whatever works for your child as far as what it looks like. So what are some other types of visual supports? These can be just really simple signs, activity menus, reminders, or posted written rules. It's really kind of whatever works for you. So here's some examples. This is just a simple list of family rules. You could put, your Smith family rules, or in my family, it would be the Heid family rules, and we could come up with what the rules are. And I've done this a lot with my son, and we've changed them over time. The rules have been, what we're working on right now, but then once he gains those skills, then we can change it. So when he was younger, I might have put, we eat only in the dining room. But now that we have the skills to eat in the living room, maybe without making a big mess, because my son is 19, so he's going to eat wherever he really feels like it at this point. But he's okay because he can do that, not make a mess, and clean up after himself. So these don't have to be rules that you continue relying on forever. You can change them for the current situation. Here's a simple morning routine list. So this is, a list of things that you need to do to get ready for the day. And these have check boxes where you can check those off. If you're, again, using the computer, you can make tokens that they add to those when they complete those tasks. So again, whatever works. Here's very similar, but this one has pictures. So you can get these pictures just from Google Images, and add the pictures on there to help them figure out, what they have to do. This one's obviously for an older person because it says shave. We also serve people of all ages, so we have adults that we support that use these as well. Here's a funny picture that we found on the internet, and Raquel and I, who put the training together, thought this was really funny because this is a kind of clip chart where you clip which point you are in your work schedule. So this is a mom working from home. You put this on your door, and the kids know if they can come in or not. And this one is just kind of funny if you read the whole thing. Add some humor to the situation, so it's pretty funny. But here's just something simple that you could do, and we've in the files section, we're going to upload this particular visual, so you could just simply print this out and either just glue it back to back or put on whichever one is appropriate for that work session. So if you need to put a do not disturb, you can put the red one and it tells the kids don't disturb, they can't come in right now. Or if you're in your office and you're working but they can come in, then it gives them that green come on in. So just something pretty simple that you can put up to indicate that you're busy or not busy. Here's an example of just an activity menu. This just gives people a list of activities to choose from. So this is really great for kids when they're having free time or they need to entertain themselves. You can say, go pick an activity from the menu. We do menus of like non-electronic activities. A lot of times kids, they have difficulty finding anything other than the TV or the video games. So we'll make a list of all of the things that they can do at home. And adding those pictures makes it really fun for them to choose from. And you might even make a list of all the things your child can do on their own so that you can get your parenting work done while they're choosing from their list of independent activities. And here's an example from a student that we work with. And one of his activities is play with his dog. So you could take a picture of the dog and put the dog on there. But this is just kind of listing out the activities that this person likes to do and has to choose from. So I want to make sure we have a lot of time for questions and answers. So hopefully that was really helpful for you, and we will make sure to share the handout, the PowerPoint, and some of the samples. So I'm going to hand over the host duties, I think, to Kathleen so that she can moderate some of the questions.
Okay,
There you go.
that sounds great. Well, yeah, like I mentioned, we will try to get to as many questions as we can. But please go ahead and let us know if you have a question in the chat box, or you can raise your hand. And then I think Michelle will unmute you. We've had a great turnout also, which is awesome.
Ooh, activity schedules that worked well for older kids. So activity schedules can be for a person of any age. So you can do them for younger kids that match kind of a school schedule. You can do them for older kids that match a school schedule, or you can do them, for that match kind of like an adult schedule. In my work, I have another colleague who even during this time was saying, I'm starting to go stir crazy in my house. I'm having a difficult time kind of focusing. And we talked about put your behavior training to work and make yourself a schedule. So an activity schedule can be really for a person of any age. Again, same considerations. You want to make sure that you work with the person when you're putting it together, and not just put it together and present it to them as if it's kind of forced on them. But if you create it together, and you really want to make sure the same thing, balance those difficult activities and then the fun activities. Something that you might want to consider when creating a schedule for a person of any age is putting some of the more difficult tasks first and then having a fun task. So you might do kind of that a more difficult academic task and then a fun activity, and then a more difficult academic task and then a more fun activity. And kind of splitting it up like that can really help people get through the day. Something also that might help, that's something that they do in school, is adding some of those like routine activities, like reviewing the calendar, reviewing the schedule, doing that at the beginning of the day, and then kind of going into some of the more difficult tasks. And sometimes we see a lot of success when we do a few easy things first before we get started with some of the more difficult things. It actually is momentum that kind of helps you get started and then keep kind of going on that. I know I've talked a lot during this time to a lot of people about kind of inertia. We're stuck at home, we're sitting at home, and it's hard to then just kind of get up and go. And we're used to going and moving all the time. So that inertia is kind of really working against us right now. So if we can, add an easy thing to the schedule to get us moving, and then add some things that are more difficult. So you could even see how this might help you as a parent even get through your just household chores. I always kind of start with something that I don't really hate, and then move on to things like dishes, because dishes I can't stand. So it's easier to start with a little bit of easier tidying and then moving into dishes than to start with those really hard tasks. So that same thing is typically true for kids. So start with what's easy and then go into things that are more difficult, and then split up the hard and the difficult.
So we have another question, Michelle.
Yeah, I see. When a family has more than 2 kids with only 1 parent. So I think then a schedule is going to be really important to try to make a schedule that works for everyone in the home. And you might have a schedule for each one of the kids that has their separate activities, but then also some activities that they're doing together. And you as a parent are also going to have to split up your time amongst all of them. So you want to kind of lay that out so that when, if one child really needs help with their math assignment, that you can be present for that. But then the other however many kids, let's say other 4 kids, you're not going to be able to be present with them. So they're going to have an activity at that time that's a little bit more independent. So one thing that might help too is writing down for each of your kids what they can do independently, so that you have that idea of what you can kind of give them as choices during that independent time, because all kids are different. So that independent time for some kids might be, really they don't have a lot of independent skills. They can watch TV. So that's their TV time. And then the other times of the day, you're going to have to find activities that they can, do with their siblings, or that you can do with them. You also might consider setting up a space where you can work with more than one of your kids at a time. So a lot of times when we're doing just homework in home, we'll do kind of making a science experiment type board that separates some of the space. So if you're doing homework at a dining room table, you have like a study corral that you've set up for each of the kids. So they each have their independent space, but they're all sitting at the same table. And you as a parent can easily go between one and the other, where they're not spread out all over the house, but they're all in one spot, so you can walk to help.
Okay.
And then somebody else is saying, I have difficulty with participating in the Zoom meeting. Yeah, so Zoom and computer learning can be really difficult, especially for kids with disabilities. So, for that, I might really go to talk to the teacher and see, what suggestions they might have, because they know your child well and might be able to help. I know that we've had teachers and school psychologists and other IEP team members right now who have been problem solving individually with the student to figure out what will work to help them, and do some of the stuff we talked about might help, where you're showing them the schedule of, first we're going to eat breakfast, and then we're going to have that computer time. So we've helped families make schedules right now. They either say Zoom, or they say log into the computer, or just have a picture of a computer, so that the child knows, like, first I'm going to eat breakfast, and then I'm going to go on the computer. Maybe you can share a little bit more about what the difficulty with participation is. Is it sitting at the computer? Is it talking? Engaging? Oh, there's a lot of people on the webinar, so I don't know if I can find you to unmute you. So I think it might depend too on the type of difficulty that you're having. If it's actually doing the activities and participating, then that might be one area that you need to problem solve. But if it's sitting and attending, then that might be, something different that you need to look at. Maybe looking at where, if you have a laptop and you can move it to different areas, maybe move it to an area that's more conducive to the child logging in. And that might not be a desk. That might be the couch where they can hold it on their lap, or it might be their room where they can use that in a more comfortable space. So refusing to sit in front of the camera, that can be really challenging. So something that you might want to consider is seeing if they will do FaceTime or Zoom with people that they're really familiar with. So is there a family member that they can talk to on the computer and really get used to that format? First week of distance learning, I had a parent tell me that they had a session with the school psychologist on Zoom, and the student just put their head down and wouldn't participate, wouldn't look up, wouldn't engage. And we had the parent use FaceTime or Zoom to do that with family members and their friends, to get them used to talking to someone in this format. Because I know even, for me, it's been really difficult. I'm used to doing these types of trainings that I'm doing right now in person, and I see all of you, and I see your nodding of your head, or I see, those reactions that kind of help me to keep going, or tell me what you're interested in, or when you're falling asleep, and I can kind of adjust. And now I'm just talking to my computer, and I have no idea if you're listening or not listening, if you like what I'm saying or you're falling asleep. So I just have to, adjust my behavior and keep on going. So we can imagine how confusing this is for children, that they were going to school every day and they were seeing their teacher in person, and now they're seeing all of that on the computer, and it can be scary. It can be just very different. So again, I would reach out to the teacher and try to really individually problem solve that. Reach out to other people on the IEP team if you have, other people that can really help, and see if they can help problem solve that for you. And, maybe they can help you develop some of the visual supports that we've talked about here in this training, to help with that. So you could say, I need a visual support or schedule. Can you help me make one? Can you send it to me so that I can help my child engage better in the online learning? So somebody else is giving a really great suggestion. See, we're all learning right now how to deal with this distance learning. So somebody else says that they turned off the camera at first for the little one until they were comfortable turning the camera on. So, even if we look at all the people that are participating in this webinar, some people turn on their camera and some don't. Some want to, have that and be seen, and some people didn't do their hair this morning. So it might just be, getting comfortable. You can turn it off and have them just listen. You could even have the computer in the room, but not them in front of it, so they're just listening. So, sometimes, again, when we're in schools, students are having a hard time engaging and participating, but we just try to get them to be in the space. And even if they're not doing anything, they're listening. They're in the space, they're kind of attending to instruction, and sometimes we start there. And then we work to getting them to participate. So maybe, having the computer and having the teacher presenting the lesson, but they're not in front of it, they're not looking at it, and they're not on camera, might at least get them kind of slowly used to this idea of distance learning. And I think this is really, really important, because I don't think that this is really, going to go away right away. I don't know that we've heard from many of the districts if they're going to do summer school, but summer school may also be through distance learning. And when we go back to school, we don't yet know what that's going to look like. And so I really think that we should take the time to get the kids used to this type of instruction in some way that we can. So maybe think about going to a really comfortable, spot in the house or area to do that. So yeah, LA Unified said they're going to do distance learning for summer school, and I'm sure that that's going to be the case for other districts as well. And, if you have continued difficulties, reach out to me. I did put my email in the beginning of the chat. I'm happy to, have a conversation and problem solve a little bit more, but I would really encourage you to reach out to your school team who knows your child the best, to problem solve that first, so that you can really get that information and feedback from somebody who really knows your child and can really help give suggestions based on the type of distance learning that they're doing. Because we consult for many different districts and many different classrooms. We've had to learn all of the different ways that districts and classrooms are doing the distance learning. And so sometimes it's been helpful to hear from a teacher what's expected, so that we can then help the parent make a plan. But if we don't know what's being expected of them, it's harder for us. So reach out to those people that know your child best. And it may be difficult to get, a hold of someone, but I would just encourage you to keep trying. A lot of us who are providing that at-home assistance to, a lot of people I'm hearing are overwhelmed with trying to help and support as well. But keep at it. And then another great thing is that there was parent-to-parent support here too. So are there other parents that you can chat with to see what's been working for them? And I know Family Focus has been doing the Tuesday chats, Tuesday afternoons. So get on there with some other parents, and this is a time where we're all learning from one another.
Yeah, we also are going to be providing an evening chat tomorrow night, so you can contact me about that. It's posted on our Facebook pages for Santa Clarita. We also have a Wednesday at 3 p.m. for local resources in the San Fernando Valley, parent chit chat, similar. Zoom meeting that you can, and all of those are at our website. So yeah, and let me know when you want me to kind of wrap up and talk about the next webinar.
Well, do we have any other questions? See, I don't see anybody shaking their head or nodding their head.
No. Well, they were great questions. Definitely great questions, great tips from other parents. That's the best. So as Michelle mentioned, you can reach out to her. Please, you're encouraged to do that so that she can work with you, talk with you about your specific situations. We will be having same time next week, 3 p.m. Our next week 2 for this webinar series called Simple Behavior Strategies. So that webinar will share simple behavior strategies that can be used at home to prevent challenging behavior and help maintain calm at home. Strategies that include those that are used in school settings but that can also be used at home during the school closures. Michelle will review how to use the strategies and the benefits of each. And this webinar was recorded. All of these webinars that we're providing will be recorded and will be available at our website. I'm not sure exactly how soon, but probably within the week or so.
Yeah, hi everybody, this is Victoria with Family Focused Resource Center. All the handouts are available on our website now, and the recording should be there by tomorrow, if you want to look at it again or if you want to share it with some friends.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Family Focus, for doing this. I know a lot of families are really struggling, and I'm glad to see that so many people could log in, and hopefully others will be able to benefit from it. I know that it's really difficult time, and some of the information we're presenting is things that parents might already know, but we may not remember that in the moment when we're dealing with all of the challenges. So kind of going back to those things that we know that work. And next week, I'm really excited because, again, we have a lot of tips and tricks that we use when we're out working with students and supporting people in the community and at school. And we're really hopeful that we can provide some more assistance on, other things that parents can do. And I love this format of just kind of, short information and presentation. And then hopefully you guys can quickly take some of this away and begin using it right away at home.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, everybody. We're so glad that you could be here. And we hope to see you next week for some more really great information.
Vic, can you provide the link again to the website?
Sure, I'll type it in now. And someone just asked, where is the example? I think there's example of a schedule or of a token board or something like that. So if Michelle shares more examples with me, I will load them on the website just as soon as I can. So you might want to check back in a day or so. Okay.
All righty.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.